Your Excellencies, from the UN Heads of State meeting on May 28th, which kicked off this process, through the 6 working groups, the Ministers of Finance meeting, Oxfam has been working closely with the CSO Financing for Development Group, echoing our collective call for broader systemic finance reform, needed now more than ever before. We all know, and we have heard from the eminent panelists this morning, that the pandemic is sadly falling disproportionately on those who were already living precariously. The impact is varied. Oxfam estimates that by the end of the year, 12,000 people could die per day from hunger linked to COVID-19. This is potentially more than will die from the virus itself. The pandemic, as we've heard, has revealed deep harm to which we expose people and economies when we do not invest in public services. It is unearthing different types of inequalities, including gender, as we've heard from people like Patricia earlier today. With school closures and more care for illnesses occurring within households, women are continuing to bear more than 70% of unpaid work. Around the world, citizens are rising. They are pushing back on the use of development finance to further the commercialization and financialization of public services for the benefit of the few. People are demanding an end to what is clearly an extractive global economic system that is destroying people and the planet, and which, in many cases, actually assumes a racial and even geographical dimension. All of us at this meeting, from the UN agencies to organizations like ours, need to heed these calls and work towards creating sustainable economies. Civil society perspectives and calls to action is critical in this global endeavor. And this is at a time when we know that quite a number of governments, including in my own region, are using the pandemic to close and restrict civic activism. To build back better and with justice, we need more transformative, bold, and ambitious policy solutions, like many that have been proposed here today. Allow me, as a way of closing, to just highlight what we think, or what I think, are 4 key priorities. Number 1 is this issue of tackling debt. We need to stop the hemorrhaging of money from developing countries through debt repayments. While the G20 took some action, it is far from what is needed. We echo the call for extensive debt cancellations and the establishment of a sovereign debt workout mechanism at the UN to support a comprehensive, systematic, timely, and fair restructuring of sovereign debt. We join our civil society allies and friends to push for a liquidity injection commensurate with the level of need among developing countries through a new allocation of special drawing rights. 2 is realizing the aid commitments. Developed countries must meet their 50-year-old promise, or shall I say moral debt, of 0.7% of GNI commitment. This is serious because Oxfam has calculated that nearly $5.7 trillion in aid, or $114 billion a year, was lost because developed countries never reached this commitment. These commitments are especially important now. Just 28% of the 10.1 billion the UN requested to help poor countries tackle the crisis has been pledged to date, let alone released. Number 3 is the need to coordinate a global effort for social protection. Governments, both in the north and in the south, must do more to deal with the social impact of losing jobs and access to basic services. Governments must provide a basic social floor to all citizens, with richer nations contributing to a global fund for social protection to support those who lack adequate resources. And finally, very important, we believe that an international summit on economic reconstruction and systemic reform held under the auspices of the UN could be an opportunity to agree on ambitious responses to the pandemic and remove barriers to socio-economic transformation. And we are not being naive in pushing for this summit, because we know that summits alone don't solve the problem. it requires commitment to follow those resolutions that are made in summits, and which is going to be a challenge, especially as we see today the struggles that the global multilateral system is facing. I want to thank you, and thank you very much.